Right on. All right, we're just gonna wait on. Yeah, it's a little warm over here. Oh, we're on Facebook. I guess I better get things going. Just waiting on our guest. Maya's seventh son. She'll be with us in a minute. Having some video problems. Let's see what's going on here. All right. Okay, we got 9 people in the house. If these shows resonate with you, please share. We're just waiting on our guests. April Lloyd, thank you for another beautiful gift. C. Cummins is here. Christopher Bailey, Tom White Bear, Katrina Christie Duck. I'm going to share this through the network while we're waiting on Maya's seventh son. Let's see. Whew. Okay, here she is. Yeah. All right. Okay, Maya, we're on Facebook. I'm just going to share it out a little bit. It's all right if it didn't work. Okay. Can you hear me, Maya?
Yeah, I can, Todd.
Okay.
Sorry, I cut you off a bit there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to try one other thing. This might work. I'm going to make you a co-host, and that might give you the ability to.
Still unable to detect. What a shame.
Okay. Do you have something that said that says they want to make you a host or a co-host?
Yeah, it just said up there, make you a co-host.
Yeah, I think you might have to permit that. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, let me.
But I don't, and that might. I don't know if you're going to be able to do the video, but that's okay.
Because you're oh, hang on a second.
I'll put up a picture of you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to share this out to some groups. I'll put some pictures up of your of you, and yeah. Let me see here. Let me just get this out to the network a little bit. We got 31 people in the house. If these shows resonate with you, please share. I really would appreciate it so we can stay above the algorithms of Facebook. If you're getting knocked off during the shows, which has been happening for almost 2 weeks now, it's really affected our ability to be out there and be present. You can watch this on Zoom. So let me just grab the link and I'll stick it on the Facebook comments. Okay. Copy URL. Huna says, go to your camera settings on bottom. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have. I think it's just the 2 apps. Your app that you're using for Zoom is different to the Australian Zoom. So there's something different in the settings there. The interface is slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's see here. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put the Zoom link in the comments. We got a little feedback. Do you have 2 devices going or 1?
Just 1.
Okay, just 1.
There's a beeper?
No, there was a little bit of a reverb. I can hear. Or is that our galactic family?
Probably. We're calling them in.
Let me pull your page up. Oh, I had it already. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Give me about 30 seconds, people.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. So let me pull this up. And all right. And then I'm going to go to Maya's page. And okay. Save image. Choose. Open. Yeah, we've done it this way before. It'll work. All right, so we got that going. This going. Let's see. There we go. Okay, Monique Hill.
Hi, Mon. Good morning.
Okay. Share. Go here. And here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We can do it this way. We got 42 people in the house. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. We're getting a late start, so I'm just going to say a big hello to everybody all at the same time. Thank you for the continued love and support and contributions. Allow us to keep doing this every day. And like I said before, if these shows resonate, please share. We got a really exciting show today. I'm excited about it. Maya's seventh son. We're going to talk about some of the stuff she's doing. Let me just give you a little backdrop on her. Got a little bit of a bio. Maya is a holistic healer, a writer, astrologer, psychic intuitive, telepath. Something just happened. New time artist and code keeper of the TUNUC Dream Spell Galactic Maya 15th century Mexico. Passionate about natural time and reconnecting the body systems of mind, heart, spirit in alignment with Earth's natural cycles via the 13 moon calendar. Maya has dedicated the past 20 years to teaching, researching, and further exploring the Mayan culture, in particular the 5th century Mayan tomb of Pacal Botan at Palenque, Mexico. She participated in the world's first coordinated global telepathic meditation, the Rainbow Bridge Rinri Project, the highly evolved global telepathic experiment, initiated by Jose and Loydine Arguelles in 1997, included data and codes mediating geometries or meditating geometries around our 3D bodies, aligning our personal electromagnetic fields of the planet, electronic magnetic fields with the electromagnetic field of the planet, and went for a total of 16 years, completed in July 2013. She's also a dedicated spiritual practitioner, teacher on the mysteries of the galactic Maya, whose life experience had furthered her research and unravelings on telepathy, time travel, electromagnetics, inner earth, and the mystery of Maldek. Maya's Seven Sons research has been presented in various countries, including Australia, Mexico, and Japan. So, without further ado, let me just say thank you for sharing space with us today and honoring us with your presence. We really appreciate it. Welcome to Soul Speaks 5D.
Thanks so much, Todd. And wow, thanks so much for inviting me on, because it's always exciting to share new ascension and galactic information with those people who are out there seeking it. So great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit too about something you've got coming up. We'll do that before the end of the show. We've got, I'm really bad with names, but I can't remember. There's 3 main presenters at that conference. You're one of them. Another lady from Australia that Morgan's known about for years. She's coming on next Saturday, and we're also trying to get the third speaker over there to come on. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. You've got so much in your bio that we could talk about. I don't know, and it sounds like you've been doing this for many years. There's some things in here that I have personal interest in. The 13 moon cycle has always intrigued me. I'm in as I understand it, I'm in the 13th horoscope sign or astrological sign. I'm born in December 9th. Oh, Marie Batchelor, that was the one that's coming on next Saturday.
Dr. Marie, she's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I hear. The other thing that interests me a lot is because of just some transmissions I've received, downloads or whatever, communications or whatever, with Inner Earth, Garthians and the Inner Earth, and in fact, kind of had one today that seemed to involve them a little bit. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here, and I don't know when you're talking about the Mayans I'm familiar with, but some of these other the time travel is very interesting. I find that very interesting, and then the reference here to the mysteries of the galactic Maya. I find that all interesting, but it sounds like you've been in the game for a long time. Did you wake up this way, or did you have some type of traumatic wake-up experience like most of us? You almost lost your mind. Everybody told you were crazy.
Yeah, well, I think, Todd, it's a good question, because I feel like we're all born awake And then it's the programming and the conditioning that we enter into in our lifetime, in our family, in our environment that begins to decode that natural essence of who we are when we enter this plane via birth. And, you know, for me, these codes of the Galactic Maya, I was given the codes in about, oh, wow, a long time ago now, about 18 years ago. And
wow.
I hadn't had very much sleep the night before. I'd been performing at a festival, so I'd returned home and my friend grabbed me and said, this person's got all these Mayan codes and your name's Maya and you need to get there to this workshop. And the next day, after the first day of the workshop, and I'd had a little bit more sleep, when I woke up, I had full recall of the 20 solar seals in Mayan. So like the red dragon is Imish in dragon. So I actually could recall the Mayan names just within 48 hours of accessing them again in this lifetime. So for me, it was just a natural transition. And then when I came into the work of Jose and Lloydine Arguelles at the death of my father, I think the death of my father was a pivotal moment about 15 years ago, where I then became more interested in the tomb of Pakal. My galactic signature in the Galactic Mayan Tunuk dream spell count is yellow resonant sun, and that code is actually on the tomb in Palenque. So I thought, wow, if my signature's on there, I need to know more about this. Wow. So there's been a lot of, I would say the awakening process for me has been like ascending very, very steep mountains and then reaching a plateau and then going back down and up again, just like all of us, I feel, as we're all moving through this wave of activation and reactivating our natural selves beyond the programming that we get conditioned with from, say, 0 to 7. You know, it's a very pivotal point in those 0 to 7 years. Yeah. I also feel that a lot of my awakening came from sitting with nature in the really big nature and using these codes of the Galactic Maya for the 5th century so when I'm using those codes and in nature, it seems to be such an amplified experience. And that's how I've kind of, practiced this for many years is just the codes inform you. So once you start accessing these codes on a daily basis, you're able to access other lenses of perception that would normally be blinded to you if you're just locked into the Gregorian calendar, which is 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, etc. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. Now, let me back up a little bit because I try to put everything into layman's terms, and I've got
a bunch of stuff. Please do. Yeah, I'm a galactic geek, so please translate.
Absolutely. This is not an interview; it's a conversation at Soul Speaks 5D. So this is just like me and you talking. We just have a lot of our brothers and sisters with us. Let's go back to now. So 18 years ago, you had this happen to you, and you were moved and directed to go to this event, and these Mayan codes were presented. You had recall.
Yes, exactly.
Prior to that, what was your level of awareness? Were you already communicating with galactics? Were you already communicating with divine essence? Okay, so you already were. Let me go back then. Let me ask you, when did it all start? Did it start from a young age? I mean, were you seeing things like a lot of people talk about, hey, I had higher sensory skills and abilities at a young age, and then, as I went on, some other things got introduced. When did you start to get what happened prior to the Mayan codes being delivered, or even, what led up to that? Did you have galactic contact before then?
Sure. Well, it's fascinating because I'm 4.5 years into writing my book, Todd, and I started writing the book because I wanted to reclaim a lot of the activations that I had between 0 and 7. I was an insomniac until I was like 18. So at night, I would listen and feel into all the darkness and the unseen realm. So it was a bit difficult for my parents. And of course, having a small child, they just wanted to get some sleep and wanted me to sleep. But that was certainly my activation time and how I came into Laura Eisenhower's work, because she speaks of the same activations when she was a child. And I definitely feel that I had visitations when I was a younger child, but because my family was more of, you know, a church-going Catholic background, that wasn't really encouraged in those days. And I think, you know, I was able to see auras around animals and my cats and my dogs and the horses and the cows. And I would point the aura out to my family and go, can you see that violet light around that cow? How does that happen? And the family would just be sort of not knowing how to respond to that. Because, you know, I was born in a cull, or half a cull. So my birth sac was completely over my third eye when I was born. And I've done a lot of research into cull births, and I feel that when the birth sac is over the third eye, or the whole baby is encased in that birth container, in the fluid, we come in highly telepathic and highly psychoactive, because when we're born, our third eye doesn't receive the artificial light immediately because it's veiled through the cull. So I know that.
Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? I've never.
A cull, so the birth sac. So your birth sac, when you're born and you come through the birth canal, your birth sac, my birth sac was still over my head.
Okay, so it was
that's
like
known as a half cull. Okay. And so when your eyes come out, you don't get the artificial light immediately.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. And there's probably, you know, there's millions, thousands of children born this way. And so, you know, I'm also passionate about education for those children, because I do believe that they have more tuned in and activated abilities that a normal, rational child wouldn't maybe have. You know, so, you know, I'm passionate about how we look at that and educating children in relation to how they were born.
Right, right. Now you make there's quite a bit of stuff I want to find out. I want to educate myself on this.
Yeah.
Now you talk about and these seem to be related. Okay, keeper of the Tun UC dream spell, and then this really intrigues me: Galactic Maya, and in brackets 5th century Mexico. Can you talk about what is that reference? What is that talking about?
Okay. So the Tun'uk is the count of the moon, or the 28-day count. So as we know, the Mayans had, you know, they could have up to 19 counts. So what we get from a lot of indigenous calendars, including the Maya, is as they count in cycles, and greater cycles, smaller cycles, but time doesn't move in a line the way that we are programmed in the West in relation to the Gregorian calendar. So the Tun'uk is the 28-day count. And that really connects to our DNA, because 4 times 7 equals 28. And 7, as we know, is the geometry that is contained in all life. It's in the sunflower, it's in the seed, it's in our cellular structure. So when we look at a solar year has 356 days, right? So when we multiply, so the Vatican and the Gregorian and the way that society goes at the moment says is that we have 12 full moons plus 1 blue moon a year. I mean, well, it's still 13 moons. So what the Mayans did is they actually used the number 13, and then sort of somewhere in the Knights Templar, the 13 was wiped and considered unlucky in our society. Right. But when we take the math and we take the facts and we multiply 28 by 13, we get 364 days. That's right. Almost a solar year, plus 1, which is what we call the day out of time, creates this symmetry between the moon, the sun, and the galaxy. So what the Mayans had in the 5th century, the Tun'uk count is specifically known as the 28-day count. And then there's, of course, the Hab and the Quiche, and there's many other different counts that, you know, the way that the Mayans looked at time, I mean, and I hesitate to say the word time because it's really about frequency and vibration. And when we're designing like when we have a harb calendar that the Mayan had, that was about the seasons and the cycles, similar to the Celtic and the Chinese and the Egyptian. Everybody had these cycles of calendars that they used in relation to planting and growing food. So the 28-day count was reintroduced by Jose and Loydina Arguelles in the 1980s. And we all know about the harmonic convergence, which is about 28, 29 years ago. Where
I don't know about that. What is that?
Oh, really? Okay, so this was the Whole Earth Festival. So it was activated by Jose and Loydina Arguelles in the 1980s and 1987. And the harmonic convergence was about unity. So the planet coming together unified through a new time, through a new calendar, because we can actually see that the Gregorian calendar is inharmonic to our DNA activation that's occurring right now. So this movement of bringing a new lens to time has been around since 1987. So Jose was the person.
That's based on the 28-day, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
he brought this calendric, this lost Mayan calendric code back to our awareness, and was also the first person to introduce the concept from his research to our minds about the 21st of December 2012. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now let me ask you this, because I'm just a rookie here. I'm just trying to figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah. Cool.
Looking for answers. Now, the Mayan, this is 5th century Mexico, Mayan, 28 days, creates 13 months, 364 days. You got one day at a time.
That's right.
Do other indigenous or aboriginal or primitive cultures align with this, or are there other variations?
Yeah, there are other variations. I mean, the Egyptians, for example. So the 25th of July was chosen as that +1 day. So we've got 364 + 1. So the day out of time is always July 25th, because the Egyptians also knew this, and possibly the Tibetans with their Kala Chakra mandala, that the 25th of July was in alignment with the 52-year cycle of Sirius. And as we know, Sirius is a binary system, possibly a third is in there as well. So this is about connecting to our star lineage and the Sirians, but also connecting. July 25th directly connects to the center of the galactic center, which is what the Mayans know as the Hunabku. And this was also known in the Egyptians. And when we talk about time travel, Blavatsky was the first one to disclose in her Veils of Isis that King Solomon in the 5th century and Pakal Votan in the 5th century used to visit each other for consult, for conference, and then return. Like it's written that Pakal Votan would visit Egypt, seek counsel with King Solomon, and then return to Palenque within 5 days. I was like, how were they getting from Egypt to Mexico within 5 days?
Okay. All right.
So yeah, a lot of indigenous cultures were involved in that.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just trying to put the pieces together here. I'm a big I ask a lot of questions in the universe. Like we all should do that. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think we're ever. I look at the stars. I look at the the planetary alignments, and how how does that relate to what's happening to us now? I look at, we came into this world regardless of the number of incarnations we had, regardless of our soul's lineage or our starseed lineage, and we come into this world what I might call the Akashic, okay, with what's there. And we come into this and we apply the experiential, and we are expanding this universe. Well, how does this all fit in to what people are talking about, new world, new way, new earth. How does this all fit in? How does this help us? How does this guide us? How do we apply it?
Right. Yeah. I really wish my camera was working at this stage, but well, we have to say thanks technology for even allowing it. But with the it goes back again to the 7. So I think the most inspiring aspect for me in working with the Mayan codes is the math and the fractal math. So the way that we learn math in school is different, algebra, etc., is different to the math that was used by the Maya. And there's certain numbers like 7, 13, 28, 52, 108. All of these numbers are included in the Akashic. Okay, so when we're working with these codices on a day-to-day basis, or if you choose to access this calendar, then you are expanding your perception by activating your own Akashic record in your own subconscious. So
okay, so what you're saying is, and I'm just trying to understand, if I pull out the Mayan calendar, the 28-day, 13-month calendar,
the dream spell, the Tunuk, yeah.
Okay, and I start to be conscious of it. How does that help me navigate what's happening? And let me just expand it a little bit.
Sure.
What's the difference? I'm going to ask 3 questions, and they're all really one question. But how does that help me navigate this transition we're calling ascension? What's the difference between, and I'm going to use this, don't get stuck on the word, what's the difference between following that program and a program that was instituted later, in my opinion, later, the Gregorian, influenced by the Roman Catholic Church, Romans, whatever the case was. And bottom line is, how can we use this information to transform our present state into what we know is a higher state of divine human being?
Sure. Yeah, great questions. Really, really good questions. So how this helps you navigate the dream spell of the Tunuk is basically like a 4D navigational tool. Because when we're working through the ascensions, we have 0 to 9 and beyond dimensions. Okay, so we're infinite. So what we've learned is that as of the 21st of December 2012, we've entered a new frequency. A lot of people can feel it, can sense it, but they're not quite sure what it's all about, right? And so how we navigate this is because we are programmed in our conditioning to think of time as time. We are also programmed to think of calendar as a navigation tool of time. But if we go back into history, we find the word calens in Latin means to keep books. So this current calendar system that we operate under is an economic bookkeeping device, which is the reason why, Augustus had 30 days or whatever. So when we go right back to there, we see where this current calendar that we all live under evolved from. And in that time, there was a certain amount of control to quieten, to silence, to destroy all evidence of any other existing calendars so that this calendar could have control. So technically, I don't call this a calendar, but we use the word calendar because it's the meeting point of these kinds of conversations, right? So to be able to navigate space and time is about frequency.
Yeah.
And when we're going back to this 4D, when we're going from 3D to 4D and 5D, there's a lot of turbulence in the 4D realm because this is where we sift through our own shadow programming and clear and transmute. And in that experience in the 4D realm, there is also other energies that we haven't encountered in the 3D realm. Every time we go up into dimension, we're opening our lens of perception to experience more of who we are and more of what exists in the unseen paranormal realm. So, you know, people who think, oh yeah, I want to go to the 60. Well, it's like, well, you better get your warrior shoes on, because it's not a trip. It's actually an initiation. So I don't use these terms lightly as to sound like some fluff ball. These are the initiations I've received, and I'm happy to share from my perception. And I believe everybody has something to add to this. So how we can transform is, like, if we look at today, we're having this great conversation, Todd. Today in the Mayan calendar, we have actually just gone back to the beginning of the sacred Zolkin. And perhaps after this interview, I can paste on your wall what a Zolkin looks like. This is a harmonic module that has 260 days. And 260 days to the Mayan was a gestation cycle. 9 times 28 plus 5 is a gestation cycle. So when we're using the codes of the Maya, we're counting 260 days inside the 365. So we've got this inner wheel running. And today is white lunar wind, kin 2. So we've just come back to the 1 yesterday. So from 260 back to the 1. Today we come back to the 2. And this is about stabilizing communication and breath and spirit. So this is the frequency of today. We've just entered, and then the Mayans also count. So we're used to counting Monday to Sunday. That's the way we've been programmed.
Yeah.
When we look at the Mayans, we're counting in cycles of 13. We're counting in cycles of 7. We're counting in cycles of 4. There's many different cycles within cycles, so that we can break our perception of thinking of time in a straight line, in a linear form.
Yeah.
Because time doesn't exist in a linear form. We are just programmed to believe that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally get what you're saying. I look at, look, what's the difference between these changes since the 5th century and how we count time, so to speak? You know, I mean, I realize there's numbers involved, binaries involved, there's planetaries involved. I realize that this stuff has been altered by those who secreted this esoteric knowledge, basically, if you want to say it that way. I'm way past that. I think a lot of people are way past that. A lot of people are way past, hey, what happened, how it happened, what, you know what I mean? And I look at it this way. We have how many common denominators do we have? We have a common denominator of we're soul. We're eternal beings. Okay? We don't know a whole lot about that, maybe. But what's the other thing that we have in common? We have the experience of being a human being, or a human hybrid soul, or a divine human, however you want to look at it. And I guess what I'm saying is, how can we apply this leg of the ancient wisdom to our everyday life? I mean, I just spent the first 6 days of July on my proverbial hands and knees. And I know where I've been the last 8 years. I know the divine experiences I've had. I've known the visitations that I've had. I've known the divine conscious union that I've been involved in, and many, many things. I'm only using me as an example. But what I'm trying to say is, the people out here that come into this space that I call Soulogy, what I find the most fascinating thing is their real-time experience, and they're basically saying, what the hell is going on here? What was your experience? What was your experience? What was your experience? What was your experience? And I would ask the same thing. With this journey that you've been on, what's it been like for you as a human being, your human aspect? Do you get hit with the energies when they come down? Did you get affected by the eclipse? Do you get triggered? What do you do when you get triggered? You know, I mean, these are the kind of things that I seem to gravitate to. And the reason I do is because of all the people I've had on here, 1,200 shows plus, the highest channelings, transmissions, and downloads seem to come from the conversations where the people say, this is what happened to me. Do you go through triggers? Do you go through days where you're like, oh my God, I got to lay down. The energies are kicking my butt. I mean, and how do you handle it?
Yeah, of course. Great question. And thanks for sharing some of you, briefly, I'd love to hear more of your experiences, Tom, because this is really where it happens, is where we come through into a unity roundtable to share our experiences. And I know that from working in my clinic that a lot of people are experiencing a lot of paranormal experiences now. Yeah. And to answer that, for sure, I definitely get hit. Yeah. I feel it's a process. Like I say, people want to talk about ascension and going to the 6th and the 7th and the 9th dimension. And it's like, well, you want to really make sure that your hard drive is defragged before you pop off into the 6th dimension, because when you come back, your physical 3D body has to integrate. And that's been my personal experience. Yeah. If you go too high too soon, and then you have to come back and you have to integrate all the things that need to be transmuted at the 3rd dimension.
Well, what is that? That's great. That's perfect. I just had a conversation with a friend. I just had a conversation with a friend today, and I'm so glad you brought this up. There's no coincidences. And I basically said to my friend, I said, hey, you want to talk? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I said, it's nothing personal. I'm integrating a lot of stuff over the last few days, and I really don't have anything to say. And it has nothing to do with that person. It has nothing to do with anybody. It's I'm just trying to get my arms around it. And so I'm going to go back to what you just said, because this is where the gold is to me. So we go up into these dimensions, or wherever we go, and have these experiences, both third eye and whatever. And you said we have to come back and integrate it into the human aspect. What does that mean? What does that look like to you? Did I lose you? Uh-oh. Let me see. Did you?
Different for everyone?
Oh, there you are. There you are. Okay, you cut out. Yeah, all I heard was different for everyone. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just moving. I'm just moving.
Okay.
Yeah. It's different. It's different for everyone, and I feel that, there's a people, enlightenment has become like a commodity.
Yes.
And, I come from a different school of thought. I've had to learn about my psychoactive ability first by it being shut down in my childhood, and then reactivating it in my adult life. And I feel a lot of people go through these kind of experiences, and we don't actually have the roadmaps to actually move forward in our newfound skills and abilities.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to, maybe experience an ayahuasca journey, or a psychedelic journey, or a meditation journey, or ecstatic tantra journey. And, we're in this field of where we're just exploring all these, with our curiosity, all these different tools that can help us embody more light. And really that's what's happening. The coronal mass ejection and the solar flares from the sun are a free energy source. And so we're able to embody that light source. But just like light going through, Leonard Cohen light, get the cracks is where the light gets in. Just as that light hits those old karmic patterns or loops that are held in our physical body, it can't get in. And so this is the point where people need to clear and transmute when they hear these blocks, and so I feel there's a process. It's a step-by-step process. And it comes back to the body. It comes back to the 3D, because this is our embodiment section. We're not just a body, but in the 3D, this is where we embody the light. It's about building the light quotient within. Not everybody wants to take this journey, but I kind of figure that's where we're going. Okay. You and I and the listeners. So in order to do that, when you receive this higher dimensional frequency, it's like a light beam. And it might take a long time for your 3D body to actually assimilate high frequency. So again, coming back to the codes of the galactic Maya and using them, when you come back and you've hit the wall, you can go to the Zolkin, you can go to the I Ching code for the day, you can go, you know, there's so many codes in one day. And you can go to it and you can go, oh, okay, this is a natural time frequency. If I align my body with this natural time frequency, then I am in natural time and I can be more grounded in this experience. So just tying those two things together, how these codes can assist, and also how we're having this experience of, since 2012, we've amped up our voltage. So it's like we were a 12-volt battery, and now we're a 36-volt battery. But we've also got all this data and these subconscious loops, including fear and trauma and all these things in our cellular body that are requiring to be cleared. So really, the solar flare activity is a great tool if we know how to use it in consciousness. And even the sun now in our society is, you know, they're trying to demonize the sun and it gives you cancer and blah, blah, and all these things. But really, if we're trained in our mind to take the solar light into the crown of body and fill the body from the inside, we can sweep and clear these energies. So you can go to the fifth dimension and come back and be okay and not so shaken around and not so, you know, such a huge integration process.
So would that be okay? So if I'm hearing you correctly, for instance, let me give you two scenarios. One, by being aware. I'm going to use the term being aware because I'm not sure yet how to align with it. I guess maybe that is aligning with it.
Yeah.
Being aware of natural time, being aware of what's happening. I can bring in through my, I'm going to use the term psychic abilities, intentional consciousness, focus, whatever you want to call it, to actually bring this into me, into my body, to upgrade my body, to open codes in my body and such, would be one way to say it. Would another way to say it be work on your shadows? Be aware of your shadows. Clear your shadows. Don't project. Own everything. Everything happens from the inside out. I mean, I'm not trying to be cliche-ish or anything, but is that the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, yes, in a way. Also, you know, I feel that we don't know our shadows until they're right in front of us.
Right.
That's part of the game.
Own
everything. You know,
go ahead.
I feel like owning everything is a process. Yeah. You know, you might have a traumatic experience. You know, we were talking about this the other day, and you know, I had a client come in, and she'd been traumatized by somebody who was very aggressive to her, and she'd gone to another healer, and that healer said, well, you have to own this because this guy's reflecting something, your aggression in you. And so she came to me and she was very traumatized. And I hear this a lot. I hear this so much in the new age, right? Is that, oh, that person's aggressive to you, and so this must be the shadow inside you. And I feel that that's a really interesting pivot point between that transference of energy. When somebody's projecting aggression to you, then that person, I encourage them to look at where was this bullying aggression coming from in their childhood that is still hooking them into this kind of energy. So I feel this new age culture of, oh yeah, you know, own everything or whatever, only because from my personal experience, I did own everything. I did own every terrible experience that's happened in my life until I had to wake, and I did do my shadow boxing, and I did do my, you know, really, really deep shadow work. And what I found is that because I was owning everything, I was pulling everything into my martyr program. And it wasn't until I deleted the martyr program that I realized I didn't actually have to carry psychoactively or the burdens of others, you know. Right. And so when we own everything, that's like taking the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I really feel it's about having deeper compassion for yourself and understanding that, you know, I've had past life memories where my flesh have been burning. I know that I've been burnt at the stake in the 16th century. And so in this lifetime, there's been a lot of things where operating as an intuitive, there's been certain fear hurdles to get over. You know, there's been things where I'm like, am I able to do this with people? You know, there's been a lot of fear around that, and I've had to personally push that away and have compassion for myself, and realize that this soul healer that's in this body here has been doing this for many, 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 many lifetimes. And so I have to clear and transmute all that fear and negativity that comes from, you know, the past life loop and the trauma from that, in order to be able to still be of service here in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So I think that owning everything is being a little bit hard on ourselves, but also accountability is and responsibility are key points to break your way through.
Yeah. And in my reference, and I think you explained it to your client perfectly, my reference to owning was self-reliance, was self-responsibility, and that's not even the right word. I would say it's more being owning that I can create and hold my field and be my own protection and be my own manifester in congruence, by understanding what you said to your client, which was this aggression's coming at me. What's still active in my field that's magnetizing those aggressors to me? You know,
exactly.
Okay, so I totally get with what you're saying, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Okay, so now let me ask you a couple of things, because I don't want to run out of time, and I want to give you some time to talk about some of the stuff that you're doing and then what's coming up at the conference. Let me ask you, what do you think has happened in this eclipse? What's happening in this eclipse period? The one that came last month and the one that's coming up on the 16th. What's going on in that time, in that gap? Do you know? Do you have any perspective on that?
Well, you know, the new moon, and again, we come back to Sirius, because I forget the generation, but it's our generation, Todd, that, you know, we have Vesta, the place of home, in Cancer, and the new moon was in Cancer, the first part of the eclipse. And then, so this is all about home. And, you know, I feel that everybody's feeling those things, that pull at the moment, where we have to be here, we have to be there, but really what we want is just this cocooning, kind of integrating, soft space where we can really process some things. And I think this is where we find it difficult in relation to existing in a Gregorian calendar, because we may still feel like we're running that stoic loop to get everything done by Friday, so you can have Saturday and Sunday free to go back on Monday. You know, it's difficult to navigate our way for the majority of the planet, the unified field, to navigate their way in that first part of the eclipse, because it's all about home and the security of home. And some people don't have home, you know. And so it's been a huge integration place until we come around on the 16th, which will be the self-existing seed, is about Capricorn and Saturn and life lessons. And, you know, again, I believe that all energies come in a light and a dark. There's a spectrum. You know, we're all light and dark in the spectrum. Some of us are leaning more to the darker aspects. Some of us are leaning more to the higher aspects, but we have all spectrum within us. And so this Capricorn full moon is really about understanding our own personal sovereignty on the planet. And that's a big bag to unpack, because in order to unpack your sovereignty, you could just say it in your mind, but you also have to work with your spirit and your soul here to understand or invite your soul and spirit into this process. Because understanding that we're sovereign means that we're taking our own personal authority inside.
Right.
And that
that the authorities outside that may appear to be bullied. I mean, we really, really are in a society, if we look at the unified field of the planet at a planetary level, we see that humanity is actually being bullied right now. So there's a huge kind of, you know, and it's getting people down. It's pushing people into their victim consciousness. So I feel like in this eclipse window, and for me, it goes a little bit further to the 25th of July, because we're in the galactic new year there. So this window between the beginning of July to the end of July is a powerful window to understand that our emotions, and you know, this is something I work a lot with, and I've had to learn through my shadow work of meeting bullies. You know, this is why I started writing my book, because, you know, I even had a sorcerer come into my dreaming realm and then later meet me in life in person and hammer me and smash me, who wanted to fracture my awakening. So I'm really attuned to people who may be having a difficult time in this run, that they actually feel like they've been hammered, because I understand that experience. When you hold a treasure inside you, it's up to you to find it. It's nobody else to find that treasure. Now, certain authority, this is the Capricorn full moon lunar eclipse, it wants to own that. It wants to have that. And so it took me a long time to understand that if I continued to be hurt, and I think this is in general for everyone, if we continue to feel these feelings of pain and hurt and upset and bitterness or resentment towards anyone, we are giving that bully or that perpetrator energy on the unseen realm.
I agree. Well, not even, on the seen and the unseen realm.
Yeah.
That's why if I look at this stuff with the planetary movement and you know, all that stuff, everything that's external. I'm a sovereign being. We've been on this trip for a long time. I've had many, many, many incarnations, and none of it even matters to me now. To get to a point where you say, I am a sovereign being, I don't give a damn what dimension I'm in. I am sovereign now. You might be able to take my physical body out or whatever that body may be, but you cannot take my soul. Not unless I give you permission, which is what we were all duped to do here, but now we know better.
Absolutely.
I love what you said about the sovereignty thing. I want to ask you a couple more questions real quick.
Just want to say one thing there is that, you know, and that's the loop with the dream spell with the Tun Oak, you know, and if people have questions, just message, and, you know, maybe we can do a podcast where we can give you the basics of how to follow this, because that is one of the keys to sovereignty, is working with the codes of the galactic Maya and the dream spell, or the long count, will allow you to navigate out of the tricky trap that is laid by the Gregorian calendar.
Right on.
Yeah.
What's your opinion or your perspective on conscious relationships, what people call divine, well, a lot of people call it twin flame, but divine union? The mechanism of two incarnated bodies duplicating the internal divine marriage that occurs or potentially or will occur in all of us, that it then takes on a physical representation and the power of that. What's your opinion on that, if you have one?
It's a really mixed bag for me, because I think there's a lot of language used, twin flame, soulmate, all these terms that have become popular. And when things become popular, sometimes the true essence of the terminology loses its potency. And, you know, divine union, when the masculine and feminine can come together in divine union, and I'm blessed to see some relationships in my life where that really, really works. I can see the power and the energy of when two people come together for love, not for agenda or manipulation or anything like that. But when they come together for the divine love, they are so able to radiate that light out into the world. And so I think that if people are in a divine love relationship, they are truly, truly blessed. because you're able to build this energy field that's much more powerful than you can build alone.
Right, right.
I feel here we get into the parallel realities and the multiple timelines, because I feel that there's an energy operating on the planet that is certainly from my personal experience being sent 1, 2, 3 handlers in my life, in my intimate relationships, to stop me from doing what I've done.
Yeah.
I understand that there's the imitation of the twin flame and the soulmate also sent to us. And this is also part of the shadow work. This is also part of the initiation. This is also part of the waking up. And my feeling is if you don't know what a narcissistic personality disorder or histrionic female personality disorders are, then you're not having a waking up experience, because they're the decoys that are sent to distract us from walking the middle path and keeping moving forward. So, with all the people understanding these personality disorders, then we can choose to have boundaries. And so there's those fortunate people who are in those divine love relationships, and there's those of us that are still cultivating the divine love within, which is where I feel I'm personally at, is just cultivating that divine union. And so I believe there's a lot of hijack in the true love soulmate department happening on multiple timelines, and I've experienced that. Another reason why I started writing my book, because it took me a long time to realize I was actually sent people to traumatize me, further fraction my soul, so I didn't wake up to who I was.
Absolutely.
And so just going through that healing process and clearing that, and now working with other people with that, many years have passed, and we're in the now, we can understand that there's a lot to be gained from acknowledging the divine masculine. But I also think it's funny, Todd, because, and I used to do this a lot, is I used to project the positive onto a person, not only just judge somebody in the negative, but I used to project the positive. So I believe that some of us have the eyes to see the higher aspect of a human standing in front of us, even if they're acting out in a very shadowy way. And I used to only want to believe the positive of that person. And I had a very, very difficult lesson to learn in life personally about seeing what is actually in front of me and not projecting anything. Positive, not the negative. And I think that was my powerful lesson and initiation in learning about intimate relationships and personal relationship, is don't project the loveliness of that person and only see the loveliness. Step back and view exactly what is in front of you, and then that way you won't have any blind spots. So just in relation to anybody who's listening, and in relation to your twin, if it's not lining up, it's because there's interference, and that needs to be addressed.
What do you think? Thank you. What do you think New Earth, the new grid, how does it operate? What does it look like?
Well, it's something that we decide on by coming to the round table. And the new Earth grid. I mean, there's lots of grids happening at the moment. I'm just going to move away from my phone, which has just decided to ring.
No problem.
There's lots of grids happening at the moment. There's also, we can't view our life from space unless we meditate. And I think that that's a great tool. And I look forward to sharing that at our event, is how we can meditate and look back at the Earth from space. And when we do that, we will see now that our grid is like, it's some sort of strange, weird car crash out there in the Van Allen belt, because just closer to the Earth, we have millions of satellites now. So when we're talking about an Earth grid, we can look at the man-made grid, which is also made through satellites. And then we can look at the ley lines on the planet and how they're connected to the Earth grid, because everything above is so below. So the Earth grid
point or node on the planet is also mirrored in the sky. Now, some information that, you know, the Earth grid, yes, the Earth grids do exist, and there's new ones coming all the time. One thing I think we need to understand about the Earth grid and this as above and so below is that the more that there's engineering and fracking on the planet, the geothermal engineering, what it actually does is it goes to the Earth's nodes and it breaks these crystalline structures within the Earth grid. Now, this is happening all over the planet as we speak. And this is why we can't have things like fracking on the planet, because what they're doing is they're breaking these crystalline nodes that gather at certain, when the ley line gathers at certain points. And what the fracking people or the geothermal engineers want to do is they're actually going in and drilling those nodes, which is what's caused these earthquakes, tsunamis, or whatever. Yeah. So if we imagine that that's happening on the Earth, then as below, so below, what is happening above? What is happening at the mirror reflection of that Earth grid out in space?
Yeah.
So I feel, you know, it's not a conclusive. I'm a researcher. I never conclude my information unless it's absolute, yeah, okay, because it's by all of us coming together, the new Earth, that we can understand what we're actually doing, because there's a huge percentage of people in power that are interested in the economic return and not actually interested in actually what's happening to the Earth and how destructive the destruction of these Earth nodes are. So yeah, when we say about what the new Earth is, for me, like as a sovereign being, I just own that within myself. Instead of putting my energy into going in and fighting these people who are choosing to destroy the Earth, I just build heaven around me and with the people with me. So it's really, people want to ascend and go somewhere and go off in a spaceship, but really what we want to do is we want to bring heaven here. And that connects a lot with the Quetzalcoatl the Quetzalcoatl prophecy of the 9th century Maya or the late 800s. So, you know, it's about bringing heaven here. And for me, I believe that commenced the 22nd of December, 2012. We entered a grand cycle of 26,000 years. We're just at the first 7 years of this 26,000 year cycle. And so I just visualize for the next 26,000 years whilst my soul's here is that I'm contributing to anchoring that heaven here. And I believe if more and more people do that, then we can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on. So tell everybody before we head out, tell everybody, where can they find you? What do you if you offer anything? I know you've got quite a few things in your bio. If you do energy work, do you do it online? How can people contact you? And in particular, the events you've got coming up and any other events you might have coming up.
Sure. It's been so great. Thanks, Todd. I just love this conversation. We could go and have a cup of tea and chat more. Thank you. Yeah, well, so I work online with people. If people are mainly work with people who have trauma recovery. When you're in person, I also work with people using my hot stone medicine. So I work with hot stones in the Tao tradition and Chinese medicine. So if anybody's really feeling like they're stuck in a loop and they need to break out of that, please contact me, send me a message on Facebook or whatever, and we can maybe book a session on Skype to do a remote healing. So the remote healing's going very well. I love that kind of work. Usually though, it doesn't happen in a flash or the first instance, but after the second or third session, you're usually starting to feel some renewal coming into your being. So yeah, you can message me there. I have a new website up that's 13 Moons Galactic Maya. Maybe I'll share it in the links after this interview. You can read my blog, my writing. That also has my contact details if you want to work with me. I'd love to work with you if you're ready. And most exciting is in 12 days, we have the Weaving the Dream conference in Australia, which I will be presenting on the codes of the Galactic Maya transhumanism, and how the cyber realm is affecting us and pulling us out of natural time. Of course, the wonderful Dr. Marie Batchelor, who's also an incredible metaphysical physician, will be presenting on day 2 of that conference. And the beautiful Laura Eisenhower is also coming all the way from Montana, USA. So Laura will be presenting codes on the Sophia Gaia and more astrology. And we're also looking forward to bridging astrology and the codes of the Galactic Maya together. So that event is on the 26th to the 29th of July, and you can check that out on the Facebook events. And you can also check out our website, Weaving the Dream, at Webnode. I'll put all these links under the interview.
Yeah, thank you, Monique Hill. And I just copied and pasted it, and I put it on.
Great. Monique put it there. Thanks, Mon.
Yeah, I put it on the comments. So absolutely, yeah. 26.
Yeah, so we really wanted to have a different conference. You know, I've been a performance artist for 25 years at every kind of psytrance or different sorts of festivals. And I felt like for me, I wanted to present something that was a little bit more spiritually inclined, but also fun. So we have a whole lot of body movement practices there. We're going to be doing transmutational yoga. I'll be sharing some of my techniques from Kundalini Kung Fu, which is kind of a warrior's yoga. We have beautiful Dream Team yogis presenting every day. We're going to do movement and body workshops. We will be creating an earth mandala, and we'll be doing the presentation. So it's an action-packed kind of weekend where it's a retreat space, and you can really be held in kind of pushing through this stuff, because as of the 26th of July this year, we're currently in the Mayan codes completing a 13-year cycle. So this 13-year cycle began on July 2006. So that's where we started at the 1, and we'll be finishing on the July 24th. Then we have the day out of time, and then July 26th, we begin a brand new cycle of the White Magnetic Wizard. And this will set us up for a 13-year cycle of tuning into the frequencies of being receptive. How do we look at our receptivity in our life? How are we receptive? What is enchantment to us? Because everything's become so glamorized and misappropriated. You know, what is enchantment to your child? How would you entertain your child? And timelessness, how we can play with time so that we're not so pressured by it. So time is not owning us, we're owning time. There's enough time. There's enough for everyone.
It is time. Time's out of time. We got this thing. Hey, it's a pleasure meeting you. A pleasure talking to you. Love to collaborate with you in the future. Best of everything on this conference. Sounds like it's going to be really good. A great way to start out the new year, right? And just want to say thank you again for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. And best to you and yours. All blessings.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Todd. And it's so beautiful to meet you. And really best of luck with your beautiful integration process. Be gentle and have compassion for your awesome self. And I love what you're doing. Thanks for inviting me on, and thanks for everybody who tuned in as well. Have a beautiful lunar white wind, stabilizing communication. Here we are in Lakesh.
Right on. Bye-bye.